The affair began on a Tuesday, in a hotel room neither of them had chosen. Not with passion, not with the dramatic inevitability of romance. It began with June's hand on her lower back, a touch that lasted 3 seconds too long while they waited for Finance Minister Lee to arrive. A touch that said, "I know you're terrified, and I'm here, and we're in this together," and about 17 other things Amma didn't want to acknowledge. She'd pulled away. He'd let her. But something had shifted. Some invisible line had been drawn in the air between them, and both of them knew it was only a matter of time before one of them crossed it. That was 3 weeks ago. Now, Amma sat in her car outside a cafe in Gangnam, watching June through the window. He was early, as always, reading something on his phone with that focused intensity he brought to everything. Expensive suit, perfect posture, the kind of beautiful that made people trust him right before he destroyed them. She should leave, should call him, cancel, make up some excuse about Jihee or work or anything that didn't involve walking into that cafe and pretending they were just colleagues meeting for coffee. But her phone buzzed with a message from Hwang. "Report due by 1800, don't disappoint me." And she remembered why she was here. Not for June, not for whatever dangerous thing was building between them, but because the syndicate had given her an assignment, and failing to report meant consequences she couldn't afford. Amma got out of the car. The cafe was one of those minimalist places that charged $15 for coffee and called it artisanal. June had chosen it specifically, neutral territory, public enough to be safe, private enough to talk. He stood when she approached, that automatic courtesy that probably came from an expensive upbringing, pulled out her chair, ordered her preferred drink without asking. "You look tired," he said once they were seated. "I am tired." "Mansuk?" Jihee had nightmares last night, woke up crying about monsters under her bed. Amma smiled bitterly. "I had to promise her monsters weren't real." "While working for them. While being one. There's a difference." June's expression softened in that way that made her chest tighten, like he understood, like he saw past the armor she wore everywhere else and recognized the exhausted woman underneath. "How was the dinner with Minister Lee?" he asked, shifting to business. "Successful. He and Hwang talked for 3 hours, completely off record. I played the gracious hostess, Mansuk charmed everyone with his art talk, and by the end of the night, Lee had agreed to expedite permits for 2 of the syndicate's shipping facilities." "And he doesn't know what he actually agreed to?" "He knows. He's just pretending he doesn't. Politicians are good at that." She paused. "I'm getting good at it too." "That's not corruption, Amma. That's survival." "Tell that to the version of me from 6 months ago. She'd be horrified." "The version of you from 6 months ago didn't understand the stakes." Their coffee arrived. Amma wrapped her hands around the cup, needing the warmth. The cafe was too cold, or maybe she was. Hard to tell anymore. "Hwang wants a report on Chemtech Solutions, the German pharmaceutical company you've been negotiating with. He wants to know their security protocols, their research pipeline, their vulnerabilities." Amma's stomach dropped. "That's industrial espionage. That's intelligence gathering. The syndicate wants to know if Chemtech is worth partnering with. You have access, you provide information. That's the arrangement." "I'm stealing corporate secrets." "You're evaluating a potential business partner. How you frame it is up to you." She looked at him, really looked at him, trying to find the manipulation, the calculation, the cold strategic mind that had orchestrated her recruitment. But all she saw was exhaustion that matched her own, and something that might have been guilt or might have been recognition. "How do you do this? How do you live with it?" "The same way you do, one choice at a time, one compromise at a time, until one day you look back and barely recognize the person you used to be." He reached across the table, stopped just short of touching her hand. "But you still remember why you started. That doesn't change." "Doesn't it?" "No. The reasons just get harder to see through all the blood." They sat in silence, surrounded by the ambient noise of the cafe, espresso machines hissing, conversations blurring into white noise, the ordinary soundtrack of people who had no idea they were sitting 3 feet from criminals planning crimes over artisanal coffee. "I can't give you Chemtech's research data," Amma said quietly. "That's not intelligence, that's theft. It could set their work back years." "Then tell Huang you couldn't access it. Say their security was too tight." "He won't believe that. He'll think I'm refusing orders." "Then find something else to give him, something true but useless, something that satisfies the request without actually compromising anything important." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "You want to survive this with your soul intact? Learn to give them what they ask for in ways that don't destroy who you are. It's the only way." "You do that? Find loopholes in your own corruption?" His smile was sad. "Every single day. It's exhausting, but it's better than the alternative." Alma studied him, this man who'd manipulated her into the syndicate, who reported her every move to Huang, who probably had orders to eliminate her if she became too much of a liability. This man who was also teaching her how to resist in the only ways that wouldn't get her killed. "How are you helping me?" she asked. "How do you live with it?" "I told you, I see what we could become together." That's not an answer. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Because I see why I started this, before the compromises made sense, before I convinced myself that power was its own justification. You're still fighting, still trying to draw lines, and he paused, something raw crossing his face, "I need to believe that's still possible." "What's still possible?" "Being more than what they made us." The honesty hit her harder than any manipulation could have, because it was true. She could see it in his eyes, in the way his carefully constructed mask slipped just enough to show the human underneath. And that's when Amma realized the real danger. Not Huang, not the syndicate, not even the compromises that were slowly eroding her identity. The real danger was this, that Park Jun understood her in ways Mansuk never could, that he saw the worst parts of her and didn't flinch, that when she was with him, she didn't have to pretend to be the devoted wife or loving mother or respectable CEO. She could just be the woman she actually was, complicated, compromised, capable of terrible things in service of the people she loved. "I should go," she said, standing abruptly. "Amma?" "Don't. Whatever you're about to say, don't." He stood too, and suddenly they were too close, the cafe too small, the air between them charged with everything they weren't saying. "I'll handle the Chemtech report," he said quietly. "You focus on your family, on being the person they need you to be." "And who do you need me to be?" The question hung between them, dangerous and inevitable. June didn't answer, just looked at her with eyes that said exactly who you are, and someone I can't afford to want, and we're both already lost. Amma left before she could do something stupid. That night, Mansuk cooked dinner. Real cooking, the kind he did when he needed to think. Slow-braised pork belly, kimchi fried rice, side dishes that required attention and care. The apartment filled with familiar smells, and for a while, Amma could pretend everything was normal. Jihi sat at the kitchen counter drawing pictures of her family. In her world, they were all holding hands, smiling, safe, simple, the way things were supposed to be. "Mommy, why do you look sad?" Jihi asked, not looking up from her drawing. "I'm not sad, baby, just tired." "Miss Yuna says when grown-ups say they're tired, it means they're sad but don't want to talk about it." Mansuk laughed softly. "Miss Yuna is very perceptive." "What's perceptive?" "It means she sees things other people miss." Jihi considered this, then added more detail to her drawing. "I see things too. I see that Daddy makes Mommy smile, even when she's tired sad." Mansuk met Amma's eyes across the kitchen, and the love there was so pure it physically hurt. This man who'd chosen her, who'd built a life with her, who'd trusted her completely with their daughter, their future, their everything. This man she was betraying in small, careful increments. Not with her body, not yet, but with her heart, her attention, the space she was creating for someone else to understand parts of her Mansuk never could. "Come here," Mansuk said, pulling her into his arms. "Whatever's bothering you, we'll figure it out, together, like always." Amma pressed her face against his shoulder, breathing him in, trying to memorize this moment before she inevitably destroyed it. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too, even when you're lying about why you're upset." "I'm not." "You are, but that's okay. I trust you to tell me when you're ready." He kissed her forehead. "That's what marriage is, trusting each other through the hard parts." The guilt was a physical thing, heavy and suffocating. Amma wanted to confess everything, wanted to tell him about the syndicate, about Ji-yoon, about the woman she was becoming in hotel rooms and traditional restaurants and cafes where criminals planned crimes over expensive coffee. But confession would mean explanation. Explanation would mean involving him, and involving him would mean putting him in danger. So she stayed silent, held him tighter, and hated herself a little more. The affair actually began on a Thursday, 11 days later. Amma was supposed to meet Yoon at a hotel to debrief after a syndicate operation, facilitating a meeting between one of Hwang's lieutenants and a Japanese shipping executive. Neutral ground, professional, just business. But when she walked into the suite, Ji-yoon was standing by the window, and something about the way he turned to look at her made every excuse she'd been building for the past month disintegrate. "How did it go?" he asked. "Fine. The executive agreed to the terms. Hwang will be pleased." "Good." They stood there, 5 feet apart, the silence stretching too long. "We should talk about the Chemtech situation. I've prepared a report that gives Hwang what he wants without actually compromising." Amma. Just her name, but the way he said it, quiet, careful, like he was handling something fragile, made her stop. "Don't," she warned. "Don't what?" "Whatever you're about to say. Don't say it." "I haven't said anything." "You don't have to. I can see it. And if you say it out loud, then we have to acknowledge it. And if we acknowledge it, then—" She didn't finish. Couldn't finish. June crossed the room, stopped just within reach. "Then what?" "Then I become someone I promised myself I'd never be. You already are. We both are. The question is whether we face it alone or together." "That's not a question. That's a justification." "Maybe, but it's also true." Amma closed her eyes, trying to find the strength to walk away, trying to remember all the reasons this was wrong. Mansuk, Ji-hee, the vows she'd taken, the promises she'd made. But then Ji-yoon said, very quietly, "I don't want to be alone in this anymore." And something inside her broke. Not dramatically, not with the theatrical passion of someone making a choice, just a quiet fracture, a surrender to something that had been building since the moment he walked into her life and shown her exactly how deep the darkness went. "This doesn't change anything," she whispered. "It changes everything. I still love my husband. I know. And my daughter comes first, always. I know that too." She opened her eyes, looked at him. "Then what is this?" "Two people who understand each other in ways no one else can. Two people who are drowning and choosing to drown together instead of alone." He reached out, touched her face, gentle enough to be a question. "Is that enough?" No, it wasn't. It would never be. But Amma was so tired of pretending she was strong enough to carry this alone, so tired of lying to Mansuk about where she went and who she was becoming, so tired of being the woman everyone needed her to be instead of the woman she actually was. She kissed him. Not gently, not with romance or tenderness or any of the things that made betrayal beautiful. She kissed him like someone desperate for air after drowning, like someone finally admitting what they'd been denying for weeks. And he kissed her back with the same desperation, the same recognition, the same terrible understanding that this was wrong and necessary and inevitable all at once. Afterward, they lay tangled together, breathing hard, not speaking. Amma's phone buzzed. A message from Mansuk. "Ji-hee wants to know if you'll be home for bedtime. She made you a card." The guilt crashed over her like a wave, drowning any satisfaction or relief or connection she might have felt. "I have to go," she said, pulling away. June let her, didn't try to hold her or make promises or pretend this meant more than it did. "Same time next week?" she asked as she straightened her clothes. She should say no, should end this before it destroyed everything, but all she said was yes. That night, Amma read Ji-hee 3 bedtime stories, tucked her in twice, and stayed in her daughter's room long after she fell asleep, watching her breathe, memorizing her innocence. Mansuk found her there at midnight, sitting in the dark. "She's fine," he said gently. "You can stop worrying." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I just cheated on you, because I'm working for criminals, because everything we built together is balanced on lies and I don't know how to stop lying without losing everything." "Because the world is dangerous," she said instead, "and I can't protect her from all of it." Mansuk knelt beside her chair, took her hand. "You're carrying too much. Whatever's happening at work, whatever's stressing you out, let me help. That's what I'm here for." "You can't help with this." "Why not?" "Because it would put you in danger, and I can't," her voice cracked, "I can't lose you." "You won't. I'm right here. I'm always right here." The kindness was unbearable. Amma pulled him close, held him tight, tried to press all her apologies and regrets and love into that one embrace. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "For everything I'm about to do, for everything I've already done, for being someone you deserve better than. For being distant lately, for not being fully present. You're here now, that's what matters." But she wasn't, not really. Part of her was still in that hotel room, tangled with someone who understood the darkness in ways her husband never could. Part of her was calculating how to serve the syndicate without destroying her soul. Part of her was already planning next week's meeting with Ji-yoon. She was fragments, pieces, a woman divided into versions of herself that could never coexist, but somehow had to. "I love you," she said, meaning it completely while knowing it wasn't enough. "I love you too." They went to bed together, and Mansuk held her the way he always did, protective, trusting, completely unaware that the woman in his arms was already half gone to a world he couldn't follow her into. Amma lay awake until dawn, listening to him breathe, counting the moments they had left before everything collapsed. The syndicate's next assignment came 3 days later. Hwang summoned her to a meeting, not at the traditional restaurant, but at a warehouse in Incheon. Industrial, cold, the kind of place designed for things that couldn't happen in polite spaces. Amma arrived alone, as required. Ji-yoon was already there, along with Nam-mi's son and 2 men she didn't recognize, all of them standing around a table with blueprints spread across it. "Mrs. Choi," Hwang greeted her, "thank you for coming." "Did I have a choice?" His smile was thin. "There's always a choice, it's just that some choices have consequences you can't afford." He gestured to the blueprints. They showed a building, modern, secure, with guard positions marked in red. "This is a research facility owned by Biogen International. They're developing a new pharmaceutical compound, very valuable, very protected. We want it." Amma's stomach tightened. "You want me to steal it?" "We want you to facilitate access. You have connections in the pharmaceutical industry, meetings scheduled, credentials that would get you through security. You go in as yourself, the respectable CEO, evaluating potential partnerships. While you're distracting them with negotiations, our team extracts the research." "That's corporate espionage, industrial theft." "That's business. Companies steal from each other constantly. We're just more honest about it." "I can't do this." "You can, you will, because the alternative is we find another way to acquire the research, and that way involves hurting people who don't deserve it." Hwang's expression hardened. "You're a scalpel, Mrs. Choi. Precise, clean. We prefer to use scalpels, but if necessary, we have hammers." The threat was clear. She could facilitate this theft cleanly, or innocent people would get hurt in the process. How many people work at this facility? 43. Most of them will be unaware anything happened until weeks later when they realize their data's missing. And if something goes wrong, if security catches your team, then you were there for a legitimate meeting and knew nothing about what else was happening. Your reputation stays intact, your family stays safe. You simply walk away. Amma looked at the blueprints, at the guard positions, at the notes indicating shift changes and security protocols. This wasn't just a plan, this was a military operation disguised as corporate access. When? Amma asked. Next Tuesday. You have a meeting scheduled with their director already. We're just expanding the agenda. She should refuse, should draw the line she'd promised herself in Part 5. No hurting innocent people, no destroying lives for profit. But 43 people were only innocent as long as she cooperated. Refuse, and Hwang would send the hammers. People would get hurt, possibly killed, all because she wanted to preserve a moral high ground she'd already surrendered. I need guarantees. No one gets hurt. Your team goes in, gets what they need, gets out. Clean, professional, no casualties. Hwang considered this. Agreed, as long as you do your part perfectly. I will. Good. Ji-yoon will coordinate with you on timing. Make us proud, Mrs. Choi. The meeting ended. Everyone left except her and Ji-yoon. You didn't have to agree, he said quietly. Yes, I did. You heard him. It was me or people getting hurt. That was manipulation. He gave you a false choice to make you feel like this was somehow your decision. Was it false? Would he actually hurt people if I refused? Ji-yoon didn't answer, which was an answer enough. Amma sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. I told myself I wouldn't cross this line, wouldn't actively help them commit crimes, and now I'm planning a heist. You're minimizing harm. That's different. Is it? Because from here it looks like I'm just finding better excuses. He crouched beside her chair, his voice gentle. Welcome to the syndicate, Amma, where every choice is terrible and the best you can do is choose the least terrible option available. How do you live like this? One day at a time, one compromise at a time, and by having someone who understands. He took her hand. You're not alone in this. Whatever happens Tuesday, I'll be there, making sure nothing goes wrong. You'll be there? Leading the extraction team, Hwang trusts me to keep things clean, which means I'll be trusting you to play your part perfectly. Their eyes met, and Amma saw the same exhaustion she felt, the same moral fatigue, the same desperate need to believe they were still capable of something better than what they'd become. After this, I want out. I want to find a way to get free of them without my family getting hurt. There is no out, you know that. Then I want control. I want to stop being used and start being the one making decisions. I want to reshape this organization from the inside, make it something less monstrous. That's ambitious. It's necessary, because I can't keep doing this, playing puppet while Hwang pulls strings. Eventually, he'll ask for something I absolutely can't give. And then what? Ji-yoon studied her, something that might have been admiration crossing his face. You want to take over? I want to survive, and the only way to survive the syndicate is to control it. That's dangerous thinking. Everything about this is dangerous. At least this way I'm choosing my danger instead of having it chosen for me. He smiled, and it was genuine. I told you we could reshape this organization. I'm glad you're finally starting to believe me. I don't believe you. I'm just out of better options. Same thing, really. They sat together in that cold warehouse, two people plotting impossible things while the city hummed outside, indifferent to the small betrayals and enormous choices happening in its industrial spaces. And Amma felt something shift, not surrender, but strategy, not acceptance, but revolution. She'd play their game, do their bidding, become exactly what they needed her to be. And then, slowly, carefully, she'd take it all away from them. Tuesday arrived with rain and the metallic taste of anxiety. Amma dressed in her most professional outfit, tailored suit, minimal jewelry, the armor of respectability. She kissed Mansuk goodbye, told him she had meetings all day. He believed her because he always believed her. The guilt was becoming familiar, comfortable, another compromise she'd learned to live with. Biogen's facility was exactly what the blueprints promised: modern, secure, designed to keep secrets safe. Amma signed in at reception, was escorted to a conference room, greeted by the director with professional courtesy. "Mrs. Choi, thank you for coming. We're excited to discuss potential partnership opportunities." "As am I." The meeting began. They talked about research pipelines, market opportunities, regulatory challenges. Amma played her part perfectly, engaged, intelligent, asking the right questions to keep the director talking. Her earpiece was invisible, tucked so deep no casual observer would notice. June's voice came through clearly. "We're in position. Security is rotating. You have their attention?" She asked another question about clinical trials, keeping the director focused on his presentation. "Moving now," June said. Somewhere in this building, his team was bypassing security, accessing restricted areas, copying research that could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And Amma sat in a conference room, smiling and nodding, providing the perfect distraction. "Mrs. Choi, are you all right? You seem distracted." "Just processing all this information. Your research pipeline is impressive. Could you walk me through the Phase 3 trials again?" The director obliged, pulling up detailed slides while men in black infiltrated his facility. Her heart pounded, but her voice stayed steady. Her expression remained professional. She was becoming exactly what the syndicate needed: someone who could lie with grace, steal with elegance, betray with charm. "We're clear," June said in her ear. 30 seconds and we're out." She asked about timelines, about partnerships, about anything that would keep the conversation going just a little longer. "Clear. You can wrap up whenever you want." Amma concluded the meeting with promises to review materials, discuss with her board, follow up within the week. The director walked her to the lobby, completely unaware that his most valuable research had just been stolen while he talked about clinical trials. She got in her car, drove 3 blocks, pulled over, and threw up in an alley. The shaking didn't stop for 20 minutes. Her phone rang. "Jiyoon." "You were perfect," Hamo Jiyoon said. "Hwang is impressed. Nam-mi-sun said you might actually have a future in operations." "I facilitated a crime." "You prevented people from getting hurt. There's a difference." "No, there isn't. Stop pretending there is." Silence. Then, "Meet me at the usual place. You shouldn't be alone right now." "I should go home. To my husband, to my daughter, to the people who still think I'm a good person." "Amma." "I crossed the line, Jiyoon. The one I swore I wouldn't. I crossed the line. I'm not minimizing harm anymore. I'm actively causing it." "Then come talk to me about it. Don't sit alone in your car having a breakdown where anyone could see." He was right. Practical, strategic, everything she needed him to be. Amma drove to the hotel, our hotel, the place where betrayal had become routine. June was waiting in the suite, already pouring whiskey. Amma took the glass, drank it in one swallow, didn't even taste it. "I stole corporate research today," she said. "Research that could have saved lives, could have treated diseases, could have mattered. And I stole it so the syndicate could sell it to the highest bidder." "You prevented a violent raid. That research was getting stolen regardless. You just made sure it happened without casualties." "That's what I keep telling myself, but it doesn't change what I did." Jiyoon pulled her close, and she let him, needing the human contact, needing to be held by someone who understood exactly what she'd just done and didn't judge her for it. "This is who we are now," he said quietly. "People who make impossible choices and live with the consequences. People who protect what matters by sacrificing parts of ourselves. It's not noble, it's not clean, but it's survival." "I don't want to just survive. I want to win." "Win what?" "Everything. The syndicate, my freedom, my soul." She pulled back, looked at him. "You said we could reshape this organization. I'm ready to start." His expression shifted. Surprise, respect, something that might have been desire. "That's dangerous." I don't care. I'm tired of being used, tired of compromising, tired of being the woman everyone needs me to be instead of the woman I actually am. Her voice hardened. Huang thinks I'm his asset, his tool, but tools can turn on their users, and I'm done being handled. What are you proposing? An alliance. Real power. We stop playing defense and start playing offense. We identify Huang's vulnerabilities, build our own networks, position ourselves so that when the time comes, we're not asking permission, we're taking control. That could take years. Then we start now. June studied her, and he could see him calculating, strategizing, weighing risks against potential rewards. This was the man who'd recruited her, who'd manipulated her into the syndicate, who understood power in ways she was just beginning to grasp. If we do this, he said carefully, there's no going back. We'd be committing to a long game, years of positioning, building influence, waiting for the right moment. I know. And we'd be doing it together, which means trusting each other completely. No secrets, no holding back. Can you do that? The question is, can you? You still love your husband. You're still trying to protect your family. This would require choices that might hurt them. Amma thought about Mensuk, about Jihi, about the life she'd built on lies and love in equal measure. My family stays out of this. Sacred, protected, non-negotiable. Agreed. But you, he touched her face, gentle and possessive at once, become mine. Not romantically, not exclusively, but in the ways that matter. Partner, ally, the person I trust when I can't trust anyone else. And you become mine the same way. Deal. They sealed it the way they sealed everything now, with bodies instead of words, with connection that felt more like warfare than intimacy, with the desperate need to feel something real in a world made of lies. Afterwards, lying tangled together, Amma's phone rang. Mensuk. She answered, keeping her voice steady. Hi, love. Hey, just wanted to let you know Jihee's been asking about you. I told her you'd be home for dinner. I will. I'm just finishing up meetings. Okay, love you. Love you too. She hung up, and the guilt was a physical weight, crushing and familiar. June watched her, understanding everything she didn't say. How do you do it? He asked. Love him while being here with me. I don't know. I just split myself, become different versions depending on who needs me. Wife, mother, criminal, lover. None of them complete, all of them necessary. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also the only way I survive. She got dressed, efficient, and practiced. Same time next week? Bring the chemtech analysis. We'll start mapping Hwang's network, identifying weakness points. This is really happening, isn't it? We're really going to try to take over a criminal syndicate? Yes. We're going to fail. Probably, but we'll fail spectacularly, and maybe, just maybe, we'll succeed. Amma left him there, drove home through Seoul's evening traffic, practiced her smile in the rearview mirror until it looked genuine. By the time she walked through her door, she was a different person. The wife, the mother, the woman who made pancakes and read bedtime stories and tucked her daughter in with promises that monsters weren't real. Jihi ran to her immediately, throwing small arms around her legs. Mommy, I made you a picture. Show me, baby. The picture showed their family, Amma, Mansuk, Jihi, all holding hands under a rainbow. Simple, pure, the world as it should be. Amma hung it on the refrigerator, right next to the list of syndicate contacts she'd memorized and would never write down. It's beautiful, she said, kissing Jihi's forehead. You're so talented. Miss Eunice says I should be an artist like Daddy. You can be anything you want. Except safe, she thought. Except free from the choices I'm making. Except protected from the consequences of my ambition. Mansuk appeared, pulled her into a hug. Long day? Very. Tell me about it over dinner. I made your favorite. So she did. Told him edited versions of meetings, negotiations, the business side of her life that was becoming increasingly fictional, And he listened, believed, trusted her completely. They ate together, bathed Ji-hee, read stories, put their daughter to bed. And then, when the apartment was quiet and dark, Mansuk pulled Amol close and said, "I'm proud of you. I know work is stressful, but you handle it so well. You're the strongest person I know." The words cut deeper than any knife. Because she wasn't strong. She was fragmenting, coming apart, held together only by lies and ambition and the desperate belief that somehow, eventually, she could take control of the chaos she'd created. But Mansuk didn't need to know that. So Amma kissed him, made love to him with desperate intensity, tried to pour all her guilt and love and apologies into physical connection. And when he fell asleep afterward, satisfied and trusting and completely unaware, she lay awake planning her revolution. The syndicate thought they owned her. Hwang thought she was his asset. Even Ji-yoon probably thought he'd shaped her into something useful. But they were all wrong. Amma Choi wasn't anyone's tool. She was becoming the hand that would eventually wield all of them. 3 months passed in a blur of double lives and careful positioning. By day, she ran her company, made legitimate deals, played the respectable CEO. By night, she facilitated syndicate operations, gathered intelligence, built networks that would eventually become weapons. And twice a week, she met Ji-yoon in hotel rooms that smelled like sex and strategy in equal measure. They mapped the syndicate's structure, identified Hwang's P supporters, found the fractures in Nam Mi-sun's loyalty, discovered that Shin Tae-yang was quietly building his own power base in Africa, potentially an ally if approached correctly. The syndicate is older than Hwang. He's just the current leader. Before him, there were others. After him, there will be more. So we position ourselves to be the after. Exactly. But carefully. Hwang is old, but he's not stupid. Any obvious power grab gets us killed. Then we make it subtle, become indispensable, build loyalty among the younger members who see Hwang as out of touch, wait for him to make a mistake. And if he doesn't make mistakes, then we create them. Ji-yoon smiled at that, impressed, concerned, attracted to her ruthlessness in ways that probably said terrible things about both of them. "You've changed," he said. "Good." "I'm not sure it is. You're becoming exactly what they wanted you to be." "No, I'm becoming what I need to be to take what I want from them. There's a difference." "Is there?" Amma didn't answer because she wasn't sure anymore. The lines between strategy and corruption, between protecting her family and destroying herself, between love and manipulation, all of it was blurring into something she couldn't quite name. Her phone buzzed. "Mansuk, Jihee's asking when you'll be home. Should I tell her soon or very soon?" "I have to go," she said, already packing up. "Same time Thursday?" "Can't. Jihee has a school performance. I promised I'd be there." "Friday, then." "Friday I have dinner with Mansuk's parents. They're starting to notice I'm never around." Ji-yoon caught her hand, pulled her back. "Amma, when was the last time we just talked? Not about the syndicate, not about Hwang, just talked." "We talk all the time. About strategy, about operations, about revolution, but not about us." "There is no us. There's just 2 people using each other to survive." "Is that really what you think this is?" She looked at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who understood the worst parts of her and somehow made them feel less monstrous. This man who was helping her plot treason while betraying her marriage. This man who was either her salvation or her destruction, and she couldn't tell which. "I think," she said carefully, "that we're both so deep in lies we can't recognize truth anymore, and maybe that's for the best." "Why?" "Because if we admitted what this actually is, one of us would have to leave.
and we can't. We need each other too much. What if I said, I love you? The words hung in the air, dangerous and inevitable and absolutely forbidden. Then I'd say you're confusing need for love, trauma for connection, and we'd both be better off pretending you never said it. And if I said it anyway, then I'd leave, right now, and never come back. He let her go.
Amma drove home through midnight Seoul, hands shaking, tears she wouldn't acknowledge tracking down her face. This was the cost of crowns. Not violence, not death, but this, the slow corruption of everything good in her life, the transformation from devoted wife to careful adulterer, from protective mother to criminal, from woman with principles to someone who justified anything in service of survival. She arrived home. Mensuk was asleep, but he'd left a note. Jihee missed you at bedtime. She says you're the best mommy in the world. I agree. Amma crumpled the note, then smoothed it out, then read it again through tears. She was the best at lying, maybe, best at compartmentalizing, best at becoming whoever people needed her to be. But best mommy, best wife? Those versions of her were dying, slowly, quietly, sacrificed to the altar of ambition and survival and the desperate belief that taking control of the syndicate was the only way to protect the people she loved. She crawled into bed beside her husband, and he stirred, pulled her close, murmured, "Love you," without waking. And Amma whispered, "I'm sorry," to the darkness, knowing it would never be enough. The crisis came on a Wednesday. Hwang called an emergency meeting, all senior members required. Amma arrived to find the usual suspects gathered, plus 3 people she'd never seen before. Older, harder, the kind of people who'd survived decades in this world and had the scars to prove it. "We have a problem," Hwang announced without preamble. "Someone is informing, feeding information to the National Intelligence Service. We've lost 2 operations this month, nearly lost a shipment yesterday. Someone in this organization is betraying us." The room went cold. "Who?" Nami-san asked. "That's what we're here to determine." Hwang's eyes scanned a room, landing on each person with calculating precision. "Everyone here will be investigated, thoroughly, until we find the traitor." Amma's heart hammered, but she kept her expression neutral. She wasn't the informant, but she'd been gathering information, building networks, positioning herself for an eventual power play. If they investigated too deeply, they'd find evidence of her ambition, and ambition in this world was indistinguishable from treason. Jihyun caught her eye across the room, a warning. Stay calm. "How will you investigate?" Shin Taeyong asked. "Complete audit of communications, finances, movements. Anyone with unexplained contacts, suspicious activities, or divided loyalties will be questioned, extensively." Divided loyalties. The phrase echoed in Amma's mind. She had a husband, a daughter, an entire life outside the syndicate. To them, that automatically made her suspect. "This could take weeks," Nami-san said. "It will take as long as necessary. No one is above suspicion, including everyone in this room." Hwang's gaze settled on Amma. "Mrs. Choi, you've been very busy lately. Lots of meetings, lots of new contacts. Care to explain?" Every eye turned to her. This was it, the moment she'd been preparing for without knowing it. Amma met Hwang's gaze, kept her voice steady. "I've been doing exactly what you told me to do, building connections, expanding access, creating opportunities for the syndicate. If that looks suspicious, perhaps you should have been clearer about your expectations." "Careful, Mrs. Choi. Defensiveness often indicates guilt. And accusations often indicate paranoia. If you want to investigate me, do it. You'll find exactly what you expect. A woman trying to survive in a world run by men who question her every move." Nam-mi-sun actually smiled at that. Shin Taeyang looked impressed. Even some of the older members nodded slightly. But Hwang's expression didn't change. "We'll start with you." Full audit, beginning tomorrow. Ji-hyun will oversee it personally. Of course, have the only person who knew all her secrets investigate her. Either a test of both of them, or Hwang already suspected and was watching to see how they'd react. Fine, Amma said. I have nothing to hide. The meeting ended. Everyone dispersed with new paranoia, new suspicions, the kind of internal warfare that destroyed organizations from within. Ji-hyun caught her in the parking garage. We have a problem. You think? If I investigate you properly, I'll find evidence of what we've been planning. If I don't investigate you properly, Hwang will know something's wrong. Either way, we're exposed. Then we need a different strategy. Give him someone else to focus on. You mean frame someone? I mean redirect his attention to an actual problem. There has to be someone in the organization who's actually suspicious. Find them, make them look guilty enough that Hwang stops looking at me. That's cold. That's survival. You said so yourself. Ji-hyun studied her, and something in his expression shifted. You really have changed. The woman you recruited 6 months ago wouldn't have suggested framing someone. The woman you recruited 6 months ago is dead. I'm what's left. And what are you exactly? Amma stepped closer, lowered her voice. Someone who's done playing victim. Someone who's ready to do whatever it takes to control her own fate. Someone who's willing to sacrifice anyone except her family to get what she wants. Including me? If necessary, but I'd prefer not to. We're more useful to each other alive. He smiled, and it was genuine, admiring, edged with something that might have been fear. I've created a monster. No, you just gave me permission to become what I always had the potential to be. They stood there in the concrete darkness, two people who'd crossed every line that mattered and were preparing to cross more. Ji-hyun said, I'll find you a scapegoat, someone with actual suspicious activity. It won't be pretty. I don't need pretty, I need effective. You'll get both. He left her there, and Amma sat in her car for 20 minutes, breathing through the adrenaline, the fear, the terrible exhilaration of realizing she just committed to destroying someone to save herself. Her phone rang. Mansuk. Hey, love, just checking in. You said you'd be home by 9. She looked at the clock. 11:47 p.m. Sorry, work ran late. Emergency meeting. I'm leaving now. Everything okay? No, nothing was okay. Everything was falling apart. She was falling apart, becoming someone unrecognizable. Everything's fine. I'll be home soon. Okay, love you. Love you too. She drove home through empty streets, practicing normalcy, preparing her mask, getting ready to be the wife and mother instead of the woman who just agreed to frame someone for crimes they might not have committed. The fragmentation was complete now. She wasn't Amma anymore. She was versions, personas, performances, and somewhere underneath all of them, the real woman was dying, quietly, bit by bit, sacrificed to the crown she was building from blood and lies and impossible choices. End of part 6. The affair is real, the investigation is coming, and Amma Choi has just crossed the line from victim to villain, from someone surviving the syndicate to someone willing to destroy others to take control of it. But here's the question that should keep you up at night. When you sacrifice everything to protect your family, do they even know the real you anymore? Can love survive that much deception? And when Hwang's investigation closes in, will Ji-hyun protect Amma, or will he sacrifice her to save himself? Drop your theories in the comments. Hit that like if this chapter made your heart race and your morals question themselves. Subscribe because part 7 is where everything Amma's built starts to collapse, and she'll have to choose between the crown she's reaching for and the family she swore to protect. The monster is fully formed now, the cage is tightening, and the woman who walked into that hotel room isn't the same one he'll walk out when this is over. See you soon. Remember, the most dangerous people aren't the ones who break, they're the ones who break others to avoid breaking themselves. Until next time.